Maria stepped off the dusty stagecoach with a small suitcase in her hand and hope in her heart. She had traveled for days, crossing long roads and silent plains, imagining the new life she was promised. She had written letters for months to a rancher named Thomas, who told her he wanted a gentle, hard-working wife. Maria believed him. She believed his words, his promises, and the dream of a fresh beginning far away from the pain she carried inside. For the first time in years, she thought she might finally belong somewhere. But the moment Thomas saw her standing outside the station, everything fell apart. He stopped walking when he noticed her. His face stiffened. His eyes scanned her from head to toe, not with kindness, not with curiosity, but with a look she knew too well. He greeted her with a short nod and did not offer to carry her bag. Maria followed him quietly, thinking he might be tired or shy. She told herself not to worry. She told herself everything would be fine once they started talking. They walked to the back of the town where a small wagon waited. Thomas didn't help her climb up. The silence felt heavy. Maria tried to smile, tried to start a conversation, but Thomas spoke only short, cold answers. When they reached his ranch, she expected to meet his family and settle into her new home. But instead, he stopped outside the gate and turned towards her with a hard expression. "I heard something about you," he said flatly. "The doctor at your old town wrote me after I asked for your records." Maria's heart began to pound. She felt the ground under her feet turn unsteady. Thomas continued. "He said you cannot have children. That's not what I want. I need someone who can give me a family. I don't need you." Those words cut through her like a sharp wind. Before she could speak, before she could explain, before she could breathe, Thomas pointed back toward town. "There's the road. Take the wagon. Go back." She tried to say, "Please, let me explain," but he had already turned away. He walked back toward the ranch without looking behind him, without giving her a chance to understand why her entire future was suddenly taken from her. She stood alone, feeling her chest tighten with shame. She had spent all her savings to travel here. She had no home to return to, no family waiting, nowhere to start again. Everything she had hoped for now felt like dust slipping through her fingers. The small town she walked back to was busy with noise, horses, and people. But for Maria, every face seemed to turn toward her with quiet judgment. Rumors spread quickly, and soon, everyone knew she was the woman who had been rejected before her marriage even began. When she tried to look for work, shopkeepers shook their heads. "Maybe next week," they would say, though their eyes said something else. Some whispered that Thomas must have discovered something terrible about her. Some believed she must be flawed in some secret way. Still, Maria tried to keep going. She stayed at the boarding house for 2 nights, paying with the little money she had left. She tried to find sewing work, kitchen work, anything she could do. But each time she stepped into a store, someone would whisper to someone else. And suddenly, no one needed help. On the 3rd day, she sat alone on the steps outside the general store. Her hands were tightly folded in her lap. Her eyes stared at the ground, because she did not want to see people look away from her again. She felt tired, embarrassed, and scared of what might happen next. She had come so far, only to end up lost and alone. Then she heard small footsteps. 2 children stood in front of her, one little girl with bright brown eyes and a ribbon holding back her hair, and a small boy clutching a wooden toy horse. They looked up at her with simple curiosity, not with judgment or unkindness. The girl spoke first. "Are you sad?" she asked softly. Maria did not know how to answer. She didn't want to cry in front of children. She forced a small smile. "No, I'm just resting a little." The boy tilted his head. "You look like you need a friend." The girl nodded quickly. "We can be your friends," she said cheerfully. Their innocent kindness hit Maria's heart like unexpected sunlight. She blinked away the wetness in her eyes, and smiled a little more honestly this time. "Thank you," she whispered. "Wonder, undermender." Before she could say more, a tall man with warm, tired eyes walked toward them. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, and dust clung to his boots. He looked strong, but the lines on his face showed he had known hardship. "Emma, Luke," he called gently. "They're not bothering me," Maria said quickly. He gave her an apologetic smile. "They get curious about everyone. They didn't mean any trouble." Maria shook her head. "They were kind. That's not trouble." The man nodded politely and guided his children inside the store. Maria watched them go, feeling a strange warmth she had not felt in weeks. Something about the children and their father made her feel seen, not judged. But she did not expect to see them again. Over the next few days, Maria walked around town, searching for small jobs, trying to stay hopeful. Each night she returned to the boarding house, with more fear growing inside her. If she couldn't earn money soon, she would have no place to sleep. She wondered if she would have to leave town and walk until her feet gave out. One afternoon, just as she left the post office after asking again if someone needed help, she heard the familiar voices of the two children calling out to her. "There she is!" Emma shouted. Luke ran toward her with a small bunch of wildflowers in his hand. "We brought this for you." Maria kneeled down, surprised. "For me?" Luke nodded proudly. "You looked sad last time. Flowers make things better." Maria held the tiny bouquet gently and felt her eyes soften. "They already made me feel better," she said with a warm smile. Their father, Ethan, hurried behind them. "I'm sorry," he said again. "They saw you and got excited." "It's all right," Maria said softly. "Your children are very sweet." "Brr." Ethan smiled a little, and something peaceful passed between them. The next day, the children found her again. This time, they brought her a small biscuit wrapped in paper. The day after that, they brought her a drawing 3 stick figures holding hands. When she asked who they were, Emma answered confidently, "It's me, Luke, and you." Maria pressed the drawing close to her heart. Ethan noticed his children running around town more often, looking for Maria as if she were a lost treasure they wanted to protect. At first, he didn't understand why they felt so drawn to her. But as he watched them talk to her, Emma laughing freely and Luke holding her hand, he understood. Maria had a gentle calmness that made his children feel safe, something they had missed for years. One evening, as the sun slowly fell behind the hills, Ethan found Maria sitting alone on a bench near the small river. She had her suitcase beside her, ready to leave the boarding house before she ran out of money. "Is everything all right?" Ethan asked quietly. Maria hesitated before nodding. "I'm just thinking what to do next." Ethan didn't ask details. He didn't need to. He had heard enough from the townspeople to piece together her story. The rejection, the rumors, the humiliation she had faced. It made him feel a protective anger he didn't completely understand. "My children, they enjoy your company," Ethan said gently. "They help me more than they know," Maria replied. Ethan studied her for a moment, noticing the sadness hiding behind her polite smile. He wished he could take it away. He didn't know why he cared so much already. But he did. As he walked back home with the children, Emma tugged on his sleeve. "Papa," she whispered. "Can she be our new mama?" Ethan stopped, surprised, and looked down at her innocent face. Luke nodded with full seriousness, as if he had made the most important decision of his life. Ethan didn't answer right away. But one thing became clear in his heart. Fate had brought Maria into their lives for a reason. And this reason was only just beginning to reveal itself. Maria woke up early the next morning with tired eyes but a small warmth in her heart. The children's kindness still stayed with her like a quiet comfort she didn't want to lose. Even though her future looked uncertain, the memory of their smiles made her feel a little stronger. She left the boarding house, holding her small suitcase, unsure where she would go next but hoping something good would finally happen. She walked through town slowly, thinking. She tried to ask again if anyone needed sewing, cleaning, or cooking work, but people still turned her away politely. Some looked at her with hesitation, others with pity, and a few with quiet judgment. Each rejection made her shoulders feel heavier. She wondered how long she could stay in a town that didn't want her. But in the middle of that hopeless morning, she heard the familiar sound of small feet running in her direction. "There she is," Emma called joyfully. Maria turned and saw Emma and Luke racing toward her, their father, Ethan, walking behind them with a tired but warm smile. "I made this for you," he said proudly. "Papa showed me how." Maria held the little carving gently. Emma took Maria's hand and said, "We were looking for you everywhere. You didn't come yesterday." "I'm sorry," Maria replied softly. "I was busy, trying to find work." Luke frowned. "Did you find some?" Maria shook her head. "Not yet." The children exchanged a worried glance, the kind only children with big hearts could give. Ethan stepped closer and cleared his throat gently. "I was thinking," he said, "if you're still looking for work, maybe you can help at my ranch. We could use someone to help with small tasks, nothing heavy, just things around the home." Maria hesitated. She didn't want to be a burden. Ethan nodded. "Yes, and the children would be happy to have you around." Emma and Luke nodded so fast it made Maria smile without trying. So Maria accepted, grateful and relieved. She followed them to the ranch, her suitcase in hand, her heart beating with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. The ranch was a wide stretch of land with tall grass, wooden fences, a few horses, and a cozy farmhouse that looked worn but full of life. She felt something peaceful when she stepped onto the property, as if the land itself welcomed her. The moment she entered the house, Emma and Luke took her on a little tour. They showed her the kitchen, the small library corner, the living room where they played, and the backyard, where they kept chickens. Maria listened carefully, her smile growing with each corner they showed her. She felt like a guest, yet strangely like she belonged. Ethan explained the tasks she could help with: folding clothes, making simple meals, reading stories to the children while he worked outside. Maria agreed to all of it happily. She wanted to be useful. She wanted to earn her place with dignity. Throughout the day, she worked softly and calmly. She washed dishes with quiet focus, swept the floors, and helped Emma braid her hair. When Luke asked her to read him a story, she sat with him on the small couch, her voice gentle and warm. Ethan noticed the difference in his children instantly. They laughed more. They stayed close to her. Luke even stopped fighting with his sister, something that surprised Ethan greatly. During lunch, Ethan watched Maria closely. She served food with care, making sure everyone had enough before she touched her own plate. He remembered how lonely meals had felt before, just him and the children sitting quietly, missing a softness only a mother's presence could bring. Now, with Maria, the room felt full again. He wondered how someone who had been rejected and hurt so deeply could still be this kind, this patient, this warm. After lunch, the children dragged Maria outside to show her their little hiding spot behind the barn. They called it their secret place, even though Ethan knew about it. Maria sat with them in the grass while they picked small flowers and told her stories about their late mother. How she used to sing to them, how gently she spoke, how much they missed her. Maria listened respectfully, never interrupting, never asking painful questions. She just held their hands and nodded softly, showing them she understood. The children felt safe opening their hearts to her, something they didn't do with anyone else. When they returned to the house in the afternoon, Ethan was fixing a fence. Maria walked over and quietly asked if she could help. Ethan tried to tell her she didn't need to do chores outside, but Maria insisted. They worked side by side under the warm sun, handing each other tools and finishing the fence piece by piece. Their conversation stayed simple about the weather, about the ranch, about the children, but every sentence built a quiet connection between them. Later that evening, Ethan invited Maria to stay for supper again. She wanted to refuse, not wanting him to think she expected too much. But the children begged her. "Please stay," Emma said, holding her hand. "You make the food taste better," Luke added, even though Maria hadn't cooked. Maria laughed softly and agreed. That night, the small wooden table felt full of life. The children talked about their day, about chores, about a baby bird they had seen near the barn. Ethan added small comments here and there, smiling more than he had in years. Maria listened and responded gently, letting the children guide the conversation. For a moment, she forgot her pain. For a moment, she felt like she was sitting with her own family. After supper, Maria helped wash the dishes, even though Ethan insisted she should rest. When the children grew sleepy, she read them a short story. They both fell asleep with their heads resting on her lap. Maria froze for a moment, feeling a warm, unfamiliar ache inside her chest, an ache of love she had almost forgotten she could feel. Ethan walked over, his voice soft. "They really like you," he said. Maria looked down at the two small sleeping faces. "They're wonderful children," she replied lovingly. Ethan hesitated, watching her carefully. "You're good with them," he said quietly. "Better than anyone I've seen." Maria looked up at him, unsure how to respond. Ethan continued after a moment. "I heard what happened," he said gently, "about the rancher who brought you here, and then rejected you." Maria lowered her eyes, feeling the shame return like a dull wound. "You deserved better," Ethan added. His words surprised her. She felt seen, not judged, not pitied, but understood. Before she left that night, the children hugged her tightly. Emma wrapped her arms around Maria's waist, and Luke held onto her dress. "Come again tomorrow?" Emma asked. "Please," Luke added. Maria smiled, touched deeply. The next morning, Maria returned to the ranch early. She helped make breakfast, and the children cheered when they saw her. The warmth of the ranch began to wrap around her heart, day by day. She found small ways to make the children happy, teaching Emma to fold clothes neatly, helping Luke remember his chores, planting a few herbs near the kitchen window. Ethan noticed everything, and every day, the idea of Maria being part of their lives felt more and more natural to him. He liked how she filled the silences in the house with gentle energy. He liked how she listened. He liked how she brought peace to his children. That evening, when the sun was setting and the sky turned a soft orange, the children climbed into the wagon with Ethan as he prepared to take them into town. But before he could start the horses, Emma whispered to him once again. "Papa," she said softly, "why can't she live with us?" "She makes everything better," Luke added. Ethan didn't have an answer. He looked at Maria, who stood by the fence watching them leave, her hands quietly folded, her hair glowing in the fading sunlight. Something inside him shifted, something warm, something dangerous, something hopeful. He realized he didn't just want her around because the children wanted her. He wanted her too. And he didn't know how to tell her yet. The days that followed felt softer for Maria, as if life itself had slowed down to give her space to breathe. Every morning she woke up with a purpose, not a grand one, but something kind and gentle. She walked to Ethan's ranch early, always greeted first by Emma's excited running footsteps and Luke's shy smile. They treated her like she belonged there, as if she had always been part of their small world. Maria tried not to get too attached, afraid she might lose them someday, but her heart didn't listen. Each small moment carved a place inside her. Emma, holding her hand, Luke asking her to fix the button on his shirt, Ethan giving her a quiet nod of thanks every time she completed a small chore. Their home felt warm, not because of the building, but because of the life inside it. Ethan noticed everything she did, even the small things. He noticed how she hummed softly while cooking, How she always made sure the children washed their hands before meals. How she spoke gently even when they were loud or tired. He noticed the calm she brought into the house, a calm he had been missing ever since his wife passed away years ago. One afternoon, Maria helped Ethan repair a broken fence rail near the horse's paddock. She held the wood steady while he hammered the nails, the warm sun resting across their shoulders. They didn't speak much, but the silence was comfortable. When they finished, Ethan leaned the hammer against the fence and wiped sweat from his forehead. "You work harder than anyone I've seen," he said with quiet respect. Maria smiled slightly. "I'm used to work," she replied. "It keeps my mind steady." There was something in the way she said it, soft but filled with past pain. Ethan didn't push her to explain. He sensed she still carried a heavy burden, and she would open up when she felt safe enough. The children ran outside a moment later, carrying a blanket and a small basket of fruit. "Picnic!" Emma shouted. Maria laughed as Luke tugged her arm. "Come, sit with us." The four of them sat under the shade of a tall tree. The children talked endlessly, pointing at clouds, arguing which one looked like a horse or a bird. Maria listened patiently, adding small comments that made them laugh. Ethan watched her interact with them and felt something inside him warm, a feeling he hadn't felt in a long time. A feeling of family. When the children wandered off to play, Ethan sat quietly beside Maria. There was a long moment before he spoke. "You know," he began, "I don't think my children have been this happy in years." Maria lowered her eyes, unsure how to respond. "They're good children. They deserve happiness." "They do," Ethan agreed. "And I think you do too." Maria's heart fluttered a little, but she forced herself to stay calm. As days passed, the bond between Maria and the children grew stronger. Emma always held her hand when they walked. Luke always asked her to read him stories at night. Maria taught them simple things: how to fold laundry neatly, how to make basic bread dough, how to plant herbs and care for them. Ethan often found himself watching her from the doorway, seeing how gently she guided the children's hands, how she corrected them with kindness instead of frustration. She wasn't just helping them, she was healing them. One evening, the sky darkened suddenly. Thick storm clouds rolled over the hills, lightning flashing in the distance. The wind grew strong, rattling the windows of the ranch house. Ethan was outside securing the horses, and Maria rushed to bring the children indoors. The storm arrived, fast rain pounding loudly against the roof, thunder roaring across the land. Emma grew frightened and clung to Maria tightly. Luke tried to be brave, but his voice trembled whenever the thunder cracked. Maria held both children close. "It's all right," she whispered gently. "Storms sound scary, but they pass. I'm here with you." The children's fear slowly softened under her calm voice. When Ethan came inside, soaked and exhausted, he found Maria sitting on the floor with both children wrapped in her arms. Emma's head rested on her shoulder, and Luke snuggled against her side. For a moment, Ethan just stood there, watching them with a mix of relief and awe. "Are they okay?" he asked softly. Maria nodded. "They were scared, but they're calmer now." Ethan stepped closer and lowered himself to the floor beside them. Maria could feel Ethan's presence beside her, solid, warm, steady. The storm felt less frightening with him there. After the children fell asleep, Ethan covered them with a blanket. Maria stood to leave, but Ethan gently touched her wrist. "You don't have to go home in this storm," he said. "Stay here tonight. There's a spare room." "No." Maria hesitated. She didn't want to misinterpret his kindness. But the storm outside was fierce, and she didn't want to worry the children by leaving. "Thank you," she said softly. Later that night, Maria sat near the window of the spare room, listening to the fading thunder. Ethan quietly knocked on the door. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" he asked. Maria nodded. Ethan stepped inside, his expression gentle but serious. "I want to say something. Something I think I should have said earlier. Maria sat up straight, her heart tightening. You told me once you can't have children, he said quietly. I want you to know something. I don't care about that. My children are already here. They don't need another sibling. They need someone who cares for them. Someone who understands them. Maria felt her breath hitch. Her eyes softened as Ethan continued. And he paused, choosing his words carefully. I don't need someone who can give me more children. I need someone who can share life with me. Someone gentle. Someone like you. Maria felt her heart begin to tremble not in fear, but in gratitude. No one had spoken to her like this before. No one had valued her for who she was. But she was still scared. Ethan, what if people talk? What if townspeople say things? I don't care what they think, Ethan said firmly. And neither should you. My children chose you long before I understood why. They saw something good in you, something their hearts needed. Maria lowered her eyes and whispered, But I'm not sure I'm enough. Ethan stepped closer and gently lifted her chin so she would meet his eyes. You are more than enough. Maria felt tears rise, but not the painful kind. These were tears of relief, of hope, of being seen. Ethan didn't ask anything more that night. He didn't force anything. He simply said, Good night, Maria, and left her to rest. The next morning, the storm had passed. The sky was clear again. The fields washed clean. Maria helped prepare breakfast, and the children clung to her happily, as if the storm had somehow tightened the bond between them. Later that day, when they walked into town, the townspeople watched them. But something had changed. Instead of whispers, there were nods. Instead of judgment, there were small smiles. People had seen the way Maria helped Ethan during the storm, how she looked after the children, how the ranch seemed livelier with her presence. Even the storekeeper who once turned her away handed her a bag of flour and said, On the house, for helping that family. Maria was surprised, but grateful. As they walked back home, the children held Maria's hands tightly. Emma on one side, Luke on the other. Ethan walked beside her, closer than before, quietly protective. Maria didn't say anything, but she felt a deep, warm truth settling inside her. She was no longer alone. She wasn't just a rejected mail-order bride anymore. She wasn't a forgotten woman with an empty future. She was becoming a part of something real. A home. A family. And the love growing around her was something she never thought she would have again. The morning after the storm felt like a new beginning for everyone in the house. Sunlight touched the wet earth outside, making the land shine like it had been washed clean for a fresh start. Maria woke early and walked into the kitchen quietly, trying not to disturb the children. She found Ethan already awake, preparing water for coffee. He looked at her with a gentle smile. Good morning. Good morning, she replied softly, feeling a strange warmth in her chest at the simple greeting. They worked side by side for a while, Maria slicing bread, Ethan stirring the fire. The silence between them felt different now, not empty, but full of unspoken understanding. She could still remember his words from the night before, words that had reached the deepest place inside her heart. He had seen her worth when others had turned away. He had looked beyond her past and her fears. It meant more than she could ever say. Soon the children woke, sleepy-eyed and cheerful, running to hug Maria as if she had always been part of their mornings. Breakfast was full of chatter, laughter, and soft moments that made Maria feel something she never expected again. She felt like she belonged. After breakfast, Emma and Luke begged Maria to walk with them to the small stream near the ranch. She agreed, and Ethan joined them. They walked through the tall grass, the children skipping ahead while Ethan and Maria followed slowly. The fresh morning air filled Maria with a peaceful feeling she hadn't felt in years. At the stream, the children tossed pebbles in the water, cheering whenever they made a splash. Maria laughed with them, her eyes shining with genuine joy. Ethan watched her from a short distance, noticing how natural she looked beside his children, calm, patient, full of gentle energy. He realized again how hard life had been before she arrived. The house had been quiet, the children had cried more, and he had felt unsure if he could raise them alone. But now, with Maria there, everything felt lighter. When the children ran off to chase butterflies, Ethan took a deep breath and stepped closer to Maria. "They adore you," he said quietly. Maria looked down at the small ripples in the stream. "They're wonderful," she replied. "Anyone would adore them." Ethan shook his head. "Not just anyone. They chose you." Maria felt her throat tighten. I don't know why." "Because you make them feel safe," Ethan said gently. "And you make this house feel like a home again. En place, too." Maria's eyes softened. She wanted to believe him, but part of her still feared everything could disappear again, just like before. She didn't want to lose the children, or Ethan. She didn't want to face another door closing in her face. "Ethan," she whispered, "I don't want to cause trouble for you, or the children. I don't want people talking." Ethan stepped closer, speaking firmly but kindly. "Maria, people will talk no matter what. What matters is what we feel, what we choose, and what makes our family strong." The word family made Maria's heart tremble. She had always dreamed of one, but never thought she would be part of something like this. Before she could reply, Emma came running toward them, breathless and excited. They followed the children to a small bush where Luke had found a tiny injured bird. Its wing was bent, and it trembled with fear. Maria knelt down and picked it up gently, speaking softly to calm it. "We should help it," she said. Ethan nodded. "Bring it home. We'll see what we can do." At the house, Maria cleaned the bird's wing carefully and wrapped it in a soft cloth. The children watched with wide eyes, amazed at her tenderness. "Will it get better?" Emma asked. Maria smiled softly. "Yes. With care and time, it will heal." Ethan watched the way she spoke, light and full of hope. Her words didn't just describe the bird, they described herself. She had also been hurt, abandoned, left trembling with fear. But she was healing here, too. Later that evening, after supper, the children fell asleep early from running around outside. Ethan walked Maria to the porch. The sky above them was sprinkled with stars, and the cool breeze carried the scent of fresh grass. Maria folded her hands nervously. She wasn't sure what Ethan would say next, but she felt her heart beating with quiet hope. Ethan leaned against the porch railing and looked at her with gentle seriousness. "I've been thinking," he began slowly. "A lot." Maria's breath caught. She waited, silent and careful. "When the storm hit," he continued, "I watched you protect my children like they were your own. I watched you stay calm when they were scared. I watched you stay by their side the whole night." He paused, searching for the right words. "Maria, I don't want you to leave this home. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not ever." Maria's eyes widened, and a quiet tremble ran through her chest. Ethan stepped closer. "You don't owe me anything, and you don't owe this town anything. But my children, and I, we need you. Not because of what you can do, but because of who you are." End quote. "I have you are." End quote. "Just for my 200. Just formant." End quote. Maria felt tears form, but they didn't fall. She had never been spoken to like this. Not once in her life. Ethan continued softly. "I know you fear being unwanted again. I know you think your past makes you unworthy of a family. But Maria, nothing about you is lacking. You are strong. You are gentle. You are exactly the kind of person my children prayed for." Maria lowered her head, overwhelmed. "Ethan, I don't know what to say." "Then don't say anything yet," he replied. Just listen. He took a breath. My children have chosen you. And so have I. I want you with us. Not out of duty. Not because we need a helper. But because we want you in our lives. As part of our family. If you'll allow it. Those words finally broke the dam in Maria's heart. She covered her mouth with her hand. And the tears she had held for so long came quietly. Warm and full of relief, not sorrow. Ethan gently reached out. Not to pull her closer, but to steady her. You're not alone anymore, he said softly. Maria looked up at him, her voice trembling. Ethan, are you sure? About someone like me? Ethan smiled gently. I'm sure about you. The children are sure about you. And I think deep in your heart, you're sure about us too. Maria wiped her tears and nodded slowly. Ethan stepped back slightly and spoke with honesty. I'm not asking you for an answer right now, but I want you to know you're wanted here. Fully. But Maria didn't need time, not really. Her heart already knew the truth. I want to stay, she whispered. If you'll have me. Ethan's eyes softened with warmth and gratitude. Then stay, he said gently. A quiet peace settled around them. The porch, the stars, the land, it all felt like it was welcoming her home. The next morning, Ethan told the children that Maria would be staying with them. Emma screamed with joy and tackled Maria with a hug so tight it nearly knocked her over. Luke wrapped his arms around her waist and whispered, I knew you'd stay. The house felt complete in a way it never had before. A few weeks later, in a simple gathering with a few townspeople, Ethan and Maria stood side by side, promising to build a life together. The ceremony was small, but filled with genuine happiness. Emma held Maria's hand the entire time, and Luke kept tugging on Ethan's sleeve, excited and proud. The townspeople who once doubted her now saw her differently. They saw a woman who healed a family with her kindness. They saw a man who appreciated her. They saw children who loved her deeply. Maria became a loving mother to Emma and Luke. Every day, she held them close, grateful for the second chance life had given her. She and Ethan worked together on the ranch, shared small laughter in the evenings, and built a gentle, quiet love that grew stronger with time. Maria had arrived in the town abandoned and heartbroken, but she stayed because a family small, imperfect, and full of love chose her. And in choosing her, they gave her the life she had once believed she could never have.